10 Darkest Secrets on What's Happening That Shocked the World That Will Shock You. You thought What's Happening was just a fun, feel-good sitcom from the 70s? Think again. Behind the laughs and catchy theme song were real-life struggles, painful betrayals, and shocking truths the public never saw. From cast members walking off set to heartbreaking accidents and behind-the-scenes battles for equality, this wasn't just a TV show, it was a battlefield. You're about to uncover the 10 darkest secrets that rocked the cast and shocked the industry. Clapperboard, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell, because here at Legends of Black Excellence, we bring the truth behind the legacy. Ernest Thomas, 75 years old. Born March 26, 1950. For millions of viewers in the 1970s, Ernest Thomas was the face of What's Happening. As Roger "Raj" Thomas, the ambitious, big-dreaming teen with glasses and quick comebacks, Thomas helped anchor one of the first black-centered sitcoms to earn mainstream success. But while audiences saw a confident young man living his best life in Los Angeles, Ernest's real story involved career-defining challenges, backstage turmoil, and a nearly missed opportunity that could have changed everything. Before landing the role, Thomas was a struggling actor in Los Angeles, working odd jobs and hustling for auditions. His break came while guest starring on The Jeffersons, a performance that caught the attention of Mary White, the agent of Isabel Sanford, who played Louise Jefferson. Impressed by his presence, White suggested he audition for a new series based on the hit film Cooley High. But when Thomas mentioned the opportunity to his own agent, he was discouraged, even berated, for entertaining an offer from another representative. Trusting his instincts, Thomas defied the warning and auditioned anyway. That bold decision would change his life. What many don't know is that over 200 actors were considered for the role of Raj. The audition process was grueling. Thomas waited for weeks, tormented by anxiety and uncertainty. When he was finally cast, he brought not just charm, but heart to the show. Yet even during its peak, he faced immense pressure, not just as a lead, but as a black actor trying to navigate an industry that often offered limited roles and little control. Years later, when the original show was cancelled due to salary disputes, Thomas was the one who never gave up. He fought for a revival and personally pitched What's Happening Now, which premiered in 1985. His persistence paid off, but the stress of getting the show back on air was so intense, it caused him to temporarily lose his voice. Ernest Thomas wasn't just the star of the show, he was its beating heart, both on and off screen. His journey is one of resilience, risk-taking, and the kind of inner strength most never see beyond the camera. Mabel King, 66 years old, 1999. Born December 25, 1932, died November 9, 1999. Mabel King was a commanding presence on What's Happening, bringing strength, warmth, and humor to the role of Mama Thomas. But few viewers understood why her time on the show was so short. Her departure after just one season wasn't due to contracts or creative disputes. It was a deliberate and powerful decision grounded in her personal beliefs about racial representation on television. Before stepping into the role of a single black mother on a sitcom, King had already made her mark on Broadway, famously portraying the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wiz, a performance that earned her a Drama Desk Award nomination. So when she joined What's Happening in 1976, she was already an established and respected performer. However, as the show progressed, King became deeply uncomfortable with how her character, and the broader black family dynamic, was being portrayed. In interviews and conversations with producers, King voiced her concerns that the series failed to offer a well-rounded image of African-American family life. Her character was a maid, raising two sons alone with little to no positive male presence in the household. While the role was written to be caring and comedic, King saw it as a missed opportunity to showcase a more aspirational and empowering depiction of black motherhood. She believed television had the potential to uplift and educate, and she was unwilling to continue in a role that, in her eyes, perpetuated limiting stereotypes. Walking away from a hit show was no small move. But for Mabel King, integrity came first. Her decision highlighted a broader issue in 1970s television, where many black actors felt typecast and sidelined. King's exit shocked fans but underscored her commitment to portraying black characters with dignity and strength. Though her presence was missed in later seasons, her stand remains one of the earliest and boldest statements for equitable representation in sitcom history. Danielle Spencer, 59 years old. Born May 16, 1966. Danielle Spencer was just 11 years old when she stole scenes as Dee Thomas, the sharp-witted, no-nonsense little sister on What's Happening. With her signature sass and unforgettable one-liners, Dee became an iconic part of black sitcom history. But behind the adorable eye rolls and tough girl attitude was a real-life story filled with unimaginable pain. In 1977, during the show's second season, Spencer's life was forever changed by a catastrophic car accident. She and her stepfather, actor Tim Pelt, were driving when their vehicle was struck by another. He was killed on impact. Danielle, who survived, suffered severe spinal injuries and neurological trauma. While fans continued to enjoy her performance on screen, few knew she was undergoing physical therapy and surgeries off-camera. The long-term effects were devastating. Years later, she experienced complications related to that same injury, including paralysis from the waist down after a spinal surgery in 2004. And yet, despite it all, Spencer never gave up. She returned to college, earned a veterinary degree, and began a new career healing animals. Her journey from sitcom fame to veterinarian was as unexpected as it was inspiring. In addition to her work with animals, Spencer became a public speaker and advocate for spinal injury awareness. She also revealed how the production team of What's Happening discreetly supported her after the accident, rearranging scenes so she could remain seated and using hairstyles to conceal scars. Her resilience became part of her identity. Not many child stars navigate tragedy and come out stronger, but Spencer did just that, proving she was far more than just Raj's little sister. Today, she is recognized not only for her early fame but for her courage, advocacy, and ability to reinvent her life after trauma. Danielle Spencer's story is one of survival, strength, and the quiet power of perseverance. Haywood Nelson, 64 years old. Born March 25, 1961. Haywood Nelson was just 16 years old when he joined What's Happening. As Dwayne Nelson, the laid-back best friend with the signature, "Hey, hey, hey." Unlike his co-stars, most of whom were in their mid-20s pretending to be teens, Nelson was the real deal, a high school-aged actor playing a high school student, navigating adolescence both on and off screen. What made Haywood's story darker than fans realize is how much pressure he carried during the show's most turbulent times. As internal disputes between producers and cast escalated, particularly over salaries, Nelson found himself stuck in the middle. During one infamous standoff, both Fred Berry and Ernest Thomas walked off the set in protest, leaving Nelson as the only core cast member willing, and contractually obligated, to continue filming. In several episodes, including If I'm Elected, Nelson shouldered entire plotlines alone. For a teenager with far less experience than his colleagues, this was no small feat. His professionalism during these disputes earned him respect from the crew and helped keep the show afloat when it was dangerously close to collapse. Post-sitcom, Nelson chose a quieter path. While fans may have expected him to pursue a high-profile Hollywood career, he instead turned his talents toward television production. He later became known behind the scenes on shows like The Dr. Oz Show and The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, earning a reputation as a technical genius with a keen understanding of how TV really works. What makes Nelson's story stand out is his discipline. While other child stars battled fame and fallout, he remained grounded, evolved with the industry, and still maintains close ties with his former castmates. His journey proves that sometimes, the quietest presence on screen can carry the heaviest load behind it, and that survival in Hollywood isn't always about fame, but about foresight. Isabel Sanford, 86 years old, 2004. Born August 29, 1917, died July 9, 2004. Though Isabel Sanford never appeared on What's Happening, her influence shaped the show in a profound, little-known way. Best known for her iconic role as Louise "Wheezy" Jefferson on The Jeffersons, Sanford made television history as the first black woman to win an Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series. But what many fans of What's Happening don't realize is that one of the show's most pivotal casting decisions indirectly began with her. While guest starring on The Jeffersons, Ernest Thomas caught the attention of Sanford's agent, Mary White. She saw something unique in Thomas, his charisma, timing, and on-screen warmth, and believed he was destined for something bigger. White recommended him for a new sitcom being developed based on the 1975 film Cooley High, which would later become What's Happening. When Thomas brought the idea to his own agent, he was discouraged, told not to chase someone else's referral. Fortunately, Thomas followed his instincts, pursued the audition, and landed the role of Raj, the lead character who would define the series. In a strange twist of fate, if Isabel Sanford hadn't hired an agent who spotted Thomas at just the right moment, What's Happening might have had a very different face. Sanford herself understood the power of opportunity. She began acting in her 30s while raising 3 children as a widow, breaking through at a time when black actresses were often overlooked or typecast. Her indirect connection to What's Happening serves as a reminder of how legacy works in Hollywood, not just through starring roles, but through mentorship, influence, and the quiet ways seasoned performers uplift the next generation. Isabel Sanford's legacy is enormous, and not just because she played Wheezy. Sometimes, just being in the right room can change someone else's life. For Ernest Thomas, and for What's Happening, that moment started with her. Shirley Hemphill, 52 years old, 1999. Born July 1, 1947, died December 10, 1999. Shirley Hemphill lit up every scene she walked into as Shirley Wilson, the tough, sarcastic waitress at Rob's Place on What's Happening. With her quick wit and unmatched comedic delivery, she brought an energy to the show that made her unforgettable. But few fans knew the personal and professional hardships that surrounded her time in the spotlight. Born in Asheville, North Carolina, Hemphill broke into comedy through stand-up and eventually landed a guest spot on Good Times before being cast in What's Happening. While her character appeared to be brash and confident, Hemphill herself often struggled with loneliness and the pressures of being a black woman in comedy at a time when the industry was still overwhelmingly male and white. Though she was not a lead character, her presence was so powerful that producers gave her a starring role in her own short-lived spin-off, One in a Million, in 1980. However, the series was cancelled after one season. She later returned to What's Happening Now in the mid-1980s, reviving her role as Shirley and trying to regain her footing in the TV world. Off-screen, Hemphill was known as kind-hearted but deeply private. As the fame faded, she returned to stand-up and often performed in small clubs, still loved by fans but largely forgotten by Hollywood. Tragically, she died alone in her Los Angeles home in 1999 at just 52 years old. Her body wasn't discovered for several days. Her passing sent a wave of sadness through the community, not just for the loss of her talent but for the reminder of how easily some stars are discarded after their moment fades. Shirley Hemphill made people laugh, loud, honest belly laughs, but she also carried pain few ever saw. Her legacy is a sobering reflection of how fame can be both a spotlight and a shadow. Essie Berry, age not publicly known. Date of birth not publicly available, widow of Fred Berry. Essie Berry may not have been part of the original What's Happening cast, but her role in preserving the memory of Fred Berry, her late husband and the actor behind fan-favorite Rerun, has made her a central figure in the show's afterlife. A public speaker, activist, and self-proclaimed urban advocate, Essie entered the public eye not for the spotlight, but for justice, first for Fred, and later for herself. After Fred Berry's death in 2003, many media outlets rehashed his reputation as a difficult cast member who clashed with producers over salary demands. But Essie Berry refused to let that narrative stand unchallenged. She publicly defended her husband's actions, arguing that Fred wasn't being greedy, he was fighting against inequality in an industry that routinely underpaid black talent. In interviews, she stressed that Fred's push for equal compensation was rooted in principle, not ego. Beyond that, Essie worked to honor his legacy by telling the full story of his life, not just as Rerun, but as a man of faith, a father, and someone who found redemption in his later years. Fred had become a born-again Christian and ordained minister, devoting his final chapter to uplifting others, particularly youth in underserved communities. Essie stood firm in making sure that part of his journey wasn't erased by headlines focused solely on controversy. But Essie Berry's own life took a turn into activism. She became known for standing up for civil rights and wrongful imprisonment cases, and even took legal action in several high-profile disputes involving celebrity fraud and elder abuse. Her presence on YouTube and in independent media has kept her voice, and Fred's legacy, alive in public memory. In a world that often forgets its pioneers, Essie Berry has fought to keep the truth visible. Her mission is not just about remembering a husband, it's about reminding the world that behind every icon is a human being who fought battles the audience never saw. Alan Rafkin, 73 years old, 2001. Born July 23, 1928, died August 6, 2001. Alan Rafkin was one of the most prolific and respected sitcom directors of the 20th century, with credits on everything from The Andy Griffith Show to The Mary Tyler Moore Show. When he joined What's Happening, he brought with him decades of experience, but even that couldn't prepare him for the tension that brewed behind the camera. Rafkin directed several key episodes of What's Happening and its 1980s sequel What's Happening Now. But unlike many directors who kept silent about cast issues, Rafkin documented the show's backstage drama in his candid memoir, Cue the Bunny on the Rainbow. He recalled Fred Berry's salary disputes, walkouts, and erratic behavior that sometimes stalled production altogether. Despite the challenges, Rafkin was not without empathy. He acknowledged Berry's immense comedic timing and understood why the actor fought for higher pay, especially as the show's success surged and profits soared. Yet from a production standpoint, these disruptions caused enormous logistical headaches and created rifts between actors and producers. One of Rafkin's most revealing admissions was about the show's abrupt cancellation. During a high-stakes meeting, the producers informed the cast that if they believed they were being treated unfairly, or racially discriminated against, they were free to walk. Shortly after, production shut down. Rafkin described it as one of the most tense and unresolved moments of his career. While he later went on to direct other major shows, What's Happening remained one of the few projects where creative joy was often overshadowed by behind-the-scenes battles. His perspective reminds us that sometimes, the darkest secrets of a beloved sitcom aren't in the script, they're in the power dynamics, broken trust, and the clash between passion and professionalism. Alan Rafkin passed away in 2001 at age 73, but his behind-the-scenes honesty helped demystify the complexities of working in Hollywood, especially for diverse casts demanding equity in an unequal industry. Mary White, age unknown. No publicly available data on her birth or death date. Mary White may not be a household name, but her influence on black television history is undeniable. As a talent agent, she worked behind the scenes, away from cameras, credits, or applause, but it was her eye for talent that helped shape What's Happening into the cultural landmark it became. White is best known in this context as the agent of Isabel Sanford, star of The Jeffersons. It was during a guest appearance on that show that Ernest Thomas caught her attention. She immediately recognized his charm, presence, and relatability, believing he was perfect for a new sitcom pilot being developed, one that would eventually become What's Happening. White approached Thomas directly, urging him to pursue the opportunity. But when Thomas brought the idea to his own agent, he was scolded for listening to another representative. Fortunately, Thomas followed his gut, auditioned, and landed the lead role as Roger "Raj" Thomas. Without Mary White's bold referral, Thomas might never have taken the leap, and the show might have taken a completely different shape. In a Hollywood system not always friendly to black actors or advocates, White's willingness to champion talent of color stood out. She wasn't just securing jobs, she was creating access. Her ability to recognize unpolished potential and push back against industry gatekeeping made her a quiet force in changing who got seen and heard. Very little is publicly known about Mary White's life beyond this pivotal moment. She kept a low profile and, unlike many agents of her era, never sought the spotlight. But her role in What's Happening remains one of the show's most important untold stories. In a world where power brokers often go unnoticed, Mary White is a reminder that some of the most transformative acts in entertainment history happen quietly, off-camera, in an office, with one simple recommendation that changes everything. What's Happening gave us laughter, but behind the comedy were powerful stories of courage, conflict, and cultural battles that still echo today. From cast walkouts to unseen trauma, these weren't just sitcom secrets, they were reflections of a much larger fight for dignity and fairness in Hollywood. But here's the question, was the show ahead of its time, or a product of the limitations of its era? Backhand index pointing down, let us know what you think in the comments. Speech balloon, do these behind-the-scenes truths change how you view the show? Television, subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more untold stories that matter.